Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I'm your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors. This is your Big 10 weekly review with Southside Riley. As we get ready for Conference Championship Week, the big game was last Saturday, which I'll have Riley talk a little about. Obviously, Ohio State and Michigan. And now Michigan is standing already in firmly at number 2. A loss, they're still in the big dance. 16.5-point favorites against a pesky Purdue team. And I can see in the studio, Mr. Riley supporting Drew Brees, who looks like this morning got struck by lightning in his preview or commercial with PointsBet or something, but he quickly said he did not. Got a lot of Big 10 basketball to talk about. Tis the season, and we are so happy to be here to educate with a little entertainment. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Southside Riley. What is up, Riley?
What is up, my friend? Happy Friday morning. I am juiced to be here as always. These overlapping shows, the football slates are obviously slimming down to one, but we've got some good Big Ten basketball to talk about this weekend. Huge game tonight and some big ones this weekend as well. A game in London with Kentucky and Michigan, which I've been peeking at that game all week long. I didn't know until today that it was actually in London, so I'm excited for that one as well. And then obviously, yeah, you said it. I'm trying to support as much Big Ten regalia as I can over here. Got Illinois tonight against Maryland. Got Purdue for the weekend, football and basketball. So yeah, I'll try and switch it up. But yeah, trying to support as many Big Ten teams as possible here.
This is the Big Ten show, so I think you need a little platform and stage to go in a little digression on what transpired last Saturday at Ohio State. 9-point favorites. We talked about it on our shows about the Ohio State 32 team total, which was a huge red flag for us there. A game that was back and forth first half. Second half, Michigan leaned on them, and fourth quarter, they just stepped on them. So what's your thoughts of the game and now basically moving forward? Again, Michigan's in, and obviously a USC loss most likely would put Ohio State in. People saying if TCU was to lose, that then they still might. I think the 3 undefeated teams are in, and then you're just battling for number 4.
Yeah, no, I'll as far as last week's game, we've talked about it. I mean, I thought it was shaping up to be the way the first half was going, an instant classic, as whether it's that game or just any college football game, basically a playoff game. And like you said, Ohio State obviously still has a chance, outside chance, but yeah, tonight's going to be a huge determination for that. And yeah, you said it. I'll give Ohio State a 10% chance if TCU finds a way. So that's where I'm at as far as I'm with you as far as I think TCU is good. I'll still give them a 10% chance if they lose to drop out. But no, I mean, Ohio State's defense, obviously people respected it. Weren't talking about them up with Georgia all season long, but I think myself and a lot of people were so surprised to see, that defense fold like they did. Not only, steadily throughout the game, but you and I talked about it. They quit in the fourth quarter, second half, especially the fourth quarter there. So interested to see, how it shakes out, how people are viewing them now. And like you said, Michigan's in no matter what. But this is, I'm glad you used the word pesky, because this Purdue team, not only this year, but historically is pesky against these top 10 teams, my man, whether it's, Ohio State or Wisconsin. This team, whenever you least expect it, will get you. They are 8-4, but I've talked all year long as far as this team being better than expectations. I thought, opening night they should have beaten Penn State. I think it was 35-31 game. Few, bounces didn't go their way. Lost to Syracuse on they take the lead with a minute left and then get two unsportsmanlike penalties, so they're kicking off from their own 10-yard line with a minute left. Otherwise, I think they'd be a two-loss team here with a couple of losses. Obviously not fantastic losses, but losses to Wisconsin and Iowa when those two teams are, kind of backs against the wall this season. So I think they're better than people are giving them credit for. If Michigan shows up and is, looking at them as a true opponent, then I think Michigan will have no problem. But if they're, peeking ahead to whatever their matchup is in the college football playoff, I think this team can have some issues. And also, it's an offense that when their passing game is working with Charlie Jones and the rest of their cast of characters, it's an offense that can move the ball through the air. So in a dome, I think that helps them as opposed to a cold, windy afternoon wherever you play it in the Big Ten like they've had in the past few weeks here. So I think this offense can have some success. Especially if Michigan's peeking ahead. So we'll get there in a second. But I'm giving Purdue more of a puncher's chance than a lot of people are.
It's funny. I'm showing a true number of 15.5 with a 51. It's 16.5. It is 17 at Circa right now with a 52. I'm glad you brought it up because when you get a closed setting, you get a dome. I just think of speed and points. This Purdue team, as you said, pesky. We've said pesky Purdue all year long. I don't think they'll get down on themselves, even if Michigan jumps out 13-0, 17-3. They're going to keep coming. We will. I don't know if you have it in front of you as we're going to break this game down. I mean, basic math. Did they put their team total at a 14.5 or a 17.5? Are they trying to bait us anywhere?
It is 17.5 for Purdue, 34.5 for Michigan.
It's a go number from Purdue. I got stuck on that number, remember, against Iowa way back, and I'm still holding that as a grudge. They got nothing to lose. Now, does Michigan play that, ground and pound, and they're just going to, hand the ball off and move it 3-4 yards at a time? We'll throw the ball when we have to. It's a low total. More respect to the Michigan defense or more respect that the Purdue is going to have a harder time moving the ball and scoring?
You know what? I think that's a little bit of respect to Purdue's defense. A lot of people in certain spots they've looked bad, but there's also certain spots where when they've had a huge emphasis of this is whether it's bounce back game or big game, Purdue's defense is better, a little bit better than people expected. So I think this is maybe Michigan not having a 35-40 point outing here today as far as the game total. So maybe I'm wrong, but I think a lot of people are looking back to last year and what Michigan did to Iowa, 42-3 or something along those lines. This Purdue team and this offense is not the Iowa offense, whether it's this year, last year. So, the total is interesting. But I think I see both teams finishing in the 20s is honestly where I'm at with this one. 28-20 is kind of how I see this one shaking out.
And it's funny, I'm glad you brought that up because as I talked about the Ohio State team total last Saturday of 32, big red flag. That's at least 6 points off of their lowest one, which was Notre Dame at 37.5 at 38.
Yeah.
That team total of 34.5. People remember what they saw last. Michigan putting up a 40-plus burger in Ohio State. They expect them to come onto the turf and follow that up. That 34.5 to me is a little sketchy. Like, well, if they can put up 41, 42 against Ohio State, then easily can put 34.5 against a Purdue team.
I'm 100% with you, and I was trying to pull up some of these. The Big Ten championships game has only been going on for about 10 years, and people, like I said, people looking at that 42-3. But you look back the year before, kind of a similar situation. Ohio State, Northwestern, and a plucky Northwestern team that kind of it was ranked by the end of the year, but obviously not hanging with the class of the Big Ten, Ohio State, or even if this type of Michigan team was there. 22-10 type finish. So I'm not saying it's that. I think Purdue offense will be better. I'm just saying there's been cases of situations like this where you have a team, top 5 team up against whether it's unranked or a plucky 15th ranked team or something along those lines, where these games have been more competitive than people give it credit for. So do I think Michigan will win? They should win, but I'll give Purdue a puncher's chance. It's a little different than that Illinois-Michigan game where Illinois almost won. Illinois' defense is obviously, the reason why that game was where it was. But like I said, I'll give Purdue a puncher's chance. I'm going to say 28-20 Michigan is my final score prediction here.
Well, I'm just going to say this, Riley. If you're playing Purdue plus the points, you're playing the team total over.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a $10 bill. You better put something on the money line. I mean, you're getting a huge, huge number. Michigan, not that I can see them losing. Okay, I'm not saying that. But with that said, they have like Alabama and Georgia last year. Georgia they were in. Michigan's in. So, if they lost, the worst case scenario is they drop to 3. They're not moving to 4. So make sure you put it. I don't care if it's $10. You make sure you put something on that.
I'm glad you mentioned it. That's kind of when I say a team's got a puncher's chance. That's kind of what I'm alluding towards as far as maybe worth the sprinkle on the money line there. And yeah, you know what? Michigan's defense, if they show up and are untouchable and dominating this game, then it'll be a different story. But I don't think it's going to be quite that successful. So I'll stick with the 28-20 prediction. But I'm glad you said it because I was thinking, and I'm right there as far as putting a little sprinkle on the money line, my friend. And I don't know I don't know what a win would do for what bowl game they would get for Purdue if they win this game, but obviously 9-4 with the Big Ten championship, probably not the Rose Bowl and not jumping over Penn State or Ohio State if they miss out on the top 4, but it'll obviously get them a pretty good bowl game. So interested to see how that shakes out. I've obviously enjoyed watching this Purdue team all season long, so hoping it's a better game than people are giving it credit for at the least, and I think it will be.
So I'm glad you brought them up. Penn State, great year, couple tough losses. So if Ohio State was to sneak in, then Penn State would be going to the Rose Bowl?
As far as I know, I've seen the Rose Bowl is a little selective, and maybe it gives some type of favoritism towards the Big Ten champion. But I would imagine wholeheartedly, especially what are they? I think they're top 10 ranked right now, Penn State. So I would have to imagine they would give the nod to Penn State there.
All right.
And then I would assume it would be. Do you know how that would work? As far as if USC loses and they drop out, then it would probably be USC, or I don't know. There's a jumble of Pac-12 teams here at 2 losses here. Would Utah jump USC to the Rose Bowl if Utah won tonight?
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, that would be the Pac-12 champs. So
I think it would.
USC wins, they're in the Final Four.
Right, and then it's between 2-loss Washington. I guess Utah's already got 3 losses, so that would be 4 losses, so that would knock them out. So it would probably be Washington if USC wins tonight.
Well, does Oregon now have 3 losses?
Yeah, they're 16th right now.
So it would be Washington.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's at least interesting to look for. I was looking. There was a listing as far as Pac-12 is kind of, or excuse me, the Rose Bowl is more selective than people are giving them credit for. And shout out to them for signing off on giving us a playoff in 2024 as opposed to waiting until 2026 or whatever it was.
College hoops. Big Ten. It's a conference that is loaded from top to bottom. Your usual suspects up there. Indiana this week had a nice win over UNC. It was a perfect storm for them, I thought, after UNC, 4 overtime game there. Michigan State's early season facing the juggernauts kind of bit them in the at Notre Dame this week. Thoughts before we start breaking down some games, just the landscape of the Big Ten basketball right now.
Yeah, let me just pull it up so I can refresh it a little bit here. But I think a lot of people are obviously we're going to see it tonight. A game that I'm really excited for, Illinois Maryland, that we'll talk about in a second here. Maryland's 7-0. Obviously, you said it. They've been kind of a banana in your tailpipe a little bit, especially last year. So interested to see how that shakes out this year. They obviously look really good. Purdue. regressed a little bit as far as not really blowing out Florida State. I don't know if you would count that as regression, but 7-0. They're AP number 5 right now. I told you they were my most underrated team in the Big Ten coming into this season. I think they're probably going to fall a little bit, and the Big Ten's going to beat up on themselves a little bit, and you're maybe not going to see those top 5 teams, at least AP top 5 teams or whatever it is. But Indiana is really good. Illinois is really, really good, and their ceiling is high with all these transfers that they have. So I'm interested to see if this is the ceiling, what we've seen from Illinois, if there's another ceiling to jump through. Let's see, Iowa. I think Iowa's going to be kind of the team that we've seen the last couple of years after Garza has left. A really solid team that on a good day they can beat anybody in the country. On a bad day they can lose to just about all 300 and whatever teams in the country, right? If they're shooting 20%, and it's going to be a tough team to bet on. Honestly, the times where you think they're due for a regression, just like last year, then they come out shooting the lights out and shoot 70% from the floor, and then the time where you expect it to be a huge bounce back, they shoot 20% from the floor. So I think they are maybe the toughest team to bet on right now, and will be this season, is Iowa there. Penn State and Michigan, maybe you throw them in that category too, as far as just being, they can play with, or they play up to anybody or play down to anybody. So that's my other one that I would say is a tough one to bet on. You get a Rutgers team. We're going to get a test of Rutgers at the rack to see how good their home court advantage again this year. We get them tomorrow against Indiana at home. This bottom, I shouldn't say bottom half, because all of these teams could, a few of these teams could be a dark horse contender to win the Big Ten regular season title or the postseason title. But Penn State is better than people are giving them credit for. Same thing with Northwestern. They, at the end of the day, they might be one of the ones on the outside looking in, but they're going to pull off some upsets. They're, like we talked about, they're a team that's going to be a defensive, low-paced, totals in the 120s type team. So, it's not going to be exciting, but, if they can pull off enough of these wins in the Big Ten, they'll have a chance, obviously. Wisconsin's going to be interesting. I could see them getting a lot better as the season goes on. I saw someone say it, and I kind of agree. This looks like the early parts of the Decker-Kaminsky tandem with what they've got right now, but, I could see that getting better as the season progresses. They've got a big game tomorrow, non-conference against Marquette. That game's always fun in Milwaukee, so that'll be a split crowd. That one will be really fun. Minnesota is, I think the clear bottom feeder of the Big Ten this year. I think they're good enough to pull off some upsets. Same thing with Nebraska. I don't expect a ton from them. They'll have some games where they're frisky, but I think Fred Hoiberg's seat is probably. If it hasn't already been, he should be on the hot seat now. So, interested to see, and then obviously interested to see how Michigan State and Ohio State fare. Typically get stronger as the year goes on. Both have looked solid so far, but I'm interested to see if they can get kind of the typical situations with those two, as far as Ohio State kind of in the same vein, kind of grow stronger as the year goes on, kind of like Michigan State. So. It is a fun year. If you gave, I don't know what the odds would be as far as one of these teams in the Big Ten ending our 20-year drought or whatever it is to lift the title, what the collective odds would be for that. And I would say it's a good chance that there's just going to be a dozen teams in there, 10 teams in there, and maybe only one team with a real shot. But I'm obviously hopeful. I'm hopeful that it's Illinois. And Indiana can be that team. Any of these teams can get hot at the right time. That the parity of college basketball has kind of reached these last few years, as far as whoever gets hot at the right time. So, hoping it's the Big Ten and they can end that drought. But at the very least, I'm excited for a really fun year, because it's going to be very, very competitive this year.
Does it help the Big Ten moving forward that you got the separator to start the year with Purdue? Or is this now Purdue's got the target on their back, and the Michigan States, the Ohio States, and some of the Michigans will now be chasing them once conference play starts? Or is this, do you think, a year that Purdue will be the separator?
I don't know that there will be a separator. Like I said, I see them coming back to earth a little bit. I put Illinois, Indiana, Purdue kind of in that, and we'll see tonight. Tonight's going to be a good case with Illinois and Maryland. Maybe you put Maryland in that category as well. I think Purdue. Honestly, I think the ceiling of Purdue's team was better last year. They might just have a little more experience now. I don't know if they have that extra gear this year. So I think they'll have some losses in the Big Ten. I think it'll be Illinois. I'm obviously a little biased, but I think the ceiling of Illinois might be the highest of all these teams. But obviously, I'm a little biased there. But Indiana could be right there as well. So I'm interested to see how it goes. I don't know that there's going to be one team that separates itself. The last 2 or 3 years, there's been a really close. I think last year came down to the last day of Wisconsin and Illinois, and maybe one other team. I'm drawing a blank on who it was, but I think that's going to be how it is again. I think the top team in the conference that wins the regular season is going to have 4 or 5 losses in conference.
All right, the board is yours, sir.
All right, tonight's game. Well, the interesting thing about tonight's game, yesterday we were talking Illinois and Maryland. Now I see fairly consensus 1.5 spread for this one, 145.5, 144.5 on the total. And you and I were talking. We kind of expected Illinois to potentially be a public side, and so far, I don't know about you if you're seeing that anywhere else, but I am not quite seeing that where I'm looking here. I see 70% of bets and money on Maryland over here at this spread here. So I don't know if that's because the state of Illinois can't legally bet on this game or what it is, but I was expecting a lot more love for Illinois, at the very least, kind of a split. And obviously, we've got a lot of time through the day. This one's not till 8 o'clock tonight, my time, 9 o'clock your time, so plenty of time for that to potentially change. But as it stands right now, that's so far that's not the way it's going. Are you interested? Were you surprised to see that? And is that any indicator that you might be interested in, or any of us might be interested in Illinois here?
Overnight number 2.5, 144.5. I see 145s. I see 145.5s. It's a marquee game. It's a 9 o'clock game. It's payday. So first of all, the public will, when in doubt, they're going to flock to the over there. That's number one. Number two, the line's down to 1.5. I'm going to just go on pure gut here. You're going to be closer to a pick 'em by tip-off. I just think they know the resume of Illinois. They've seen them enough on TV, and I don't think people are buying in on Maryland's start in the Terps. I mean, if I'm looking at Ken Palm right now, it's the second-ranked highest game other than Gonzaga-Baylor tonight. Yeah. Maryland at 20, Illinois at 17. Ken Palm has it 74-71. Maryland. Now, I'm just going to pull up Maryland's resume here. Niagara, Western Carolina, Binghamton, St. Louis, who they beat by 28, and I'm telling you, St. Louis isn't as bad as that. It was on a neutral court. Right. Miami, Florida by 18, then Coppin State, then they beat up poor little Louisville by 25. Yeah. So now I go to Illinois, Eastern Illinois, UMKC, Monmouth, great win against UCLA. Nothing to put your head on with the Virginia loss by 9. Then you come back with Linwood, and then you just beat Syracuse by 30. I will not have any play on this, but if I had to, I would take Illinois tonight.
And this would be one that I'm interested to see. Kind of like I said, if Illinois becomes closer to a public side or something like that by game time, then maybe my thoughts are a little changed on this one. But no, I in the 9-point loss to Virginia, it was that was a lot of free throws, I think, at the end of the game that really pushed it to 9. It was a lot closer than that. Illinois was leading for a lot of that game, I know. So the resume there for Illinois, the bigger and more impressive wins are there. So I'm going to be leaning towards Illinois, but I'm interested to see how this one shakes out through the day, see how people are talking about this one throughout the day. Because, like you said, I don't know that a lot of people have seen Maryland. The last one that they see is obviously the big win against Louisville there, so which I'm sure people are not too impressed with. So, would you, just based off it being a little inflated on a Friday, lean towards the under then?
Yeah, I would lean towards the under because as much as you want to think this is a close game, just with past history and stuff and the Friday night, I'm going to just say this. Maryland wins by double digits or Illinois wins by double digits. I don't think this is going to be a grab-ass back and forth real close game. One or the other is going to take charge.
I can hear that. The other, as far as just a couple of other quick breakdowns of it, Illinois has had more success shooting the three. Maryland's been solid defending the three, so maybe that's the decider of the game if Illinois is hitting threes or not. Maybe if they are hitting threes, then they're maybe going to blow them out. If not, and Maryland's defending it well, then like you said, Maryland could be the one winning. So I will obviously be rooting for Illinois. Interested to see how this one shakes out throughout the day, though. So. Maybe don't have a ton of lines on it. That is the only Big Ten game tonight. There are some big ones here this weekend. Indiana and Rutgers at the rack. 3 my time tomorrow, 4 your time, 4 local time for this game. It's obviously in New Jersey. Are you seeing any look-ahead lines or projections on this one? What's the guess as far as what the line is here?
I after what's happened, I would say they would open it up Indiana -3. That would be my guess, 3.5. And I would assume the public would be on Indiana. They just beat North Carolina. But if you look at past history and resumes, Rutgers would be the only side there. I'll use Ken Palm here for us. And they got Indiana 69-66.
By 3.
So they got Indiana by 3.
Okay. I was gonna say 3.5, 4, 4.5, but I think you're right. Especially people are gonna be flocking to Indiana if that's the case. I'm trying to look it up real quick. I don't know how deep it goes, but Rutgers has gotten at least the last 5 matchups here between these two teams, which was surprising to me. So that's kind of been a mini ownership there these last couple of years, even when Rutgers was down a couple of years ago. So that's interesting to see. So maybe that continues. The line will be very interesting to me. If this one's, what would be the confidence line for backing Indiana? Would it be 5.5, or would you like to see it higher if you're thinking Indiana is going to cruise to 1 here?
No, I would respect the 5.
5.5, yeah, 5.
5. I don't think they would get that high. I think they might go to a 4.5.
Okay.
I would run to the hills if they opened it up 1.5, 2.
Yeah.
But I think that 3 is a good number because they're going to get Indiana money, which will get it pushed to 3.5, 4 right away. So.
Yep, and you also just had Rutgers lose on the road to a lesser Miami team as 3-point dogs, obviously on the road. But I think I'm with you, and I'm hoping it's a short line. I'd love to get some action on Rutgers at the rack again here, and maybe get an early Saturday court storm to kick off the season at home for or a kickoff Big Ten play for Rutgers there. So
it's the perfect storm again. Indiana coming off a primetime game against UNC, and Rutgers on the road against Miami. A short number 2 at Miami, and we had talked about that game. So it is the perfect storm for Rutgers tomorrow.
Yep, I'm just looking. Rutgers gets Ohio State, but not until Thursday. Indiana gets Nebraska on Wednesday, back at home there. So maybe an interesting next week there. So Wisconsin and Marquette, similar time on Wednesday, on Saturday, 3:30 my time, 4:30 your time. This one's at. So it's a home game for Marquette, but it's obviously at Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee. So it is going to be a very split crowd on this one. This game is always really fun. Marquette, though, 32nd Ken Palm ranked team. Wisconsin, 45th. I'm going to go ahead and guess 3 and no, maybe not. I'll say 2.5. Marquette by 2.5 in this one would be my guess.
A little statement here. Marquette by 5.
Oh, okay. Interesting. No, this Marquette team, I'm not sure how much you've watched of them. Obviously, I lead to you with any Big Ten or Big East knowledge, but coming off of that Baylor win, a lot of people are going to be seeing that one. Wisconsin should have beaten Kansas there, then loses to Wake Forest at home there. So I'm interested to see what the perceptions of these teams are. But I don't know. This game is always really back and forth. The last 4 years, it's been Marquette, Wisconsin. So. I don't know about the spread, but I'll give a win to. You know what? I don't know. Wisconsin's been, as far as betting wise, Wisconsin's been one of my kryptonites of the Big Ten these last couple of years. So whenever I feel confident in them, they lose. Whenever I feel confident betting against them, they hold their team to 50 points. So I'll go on record in saying Wisconsin gets a bounce back win, and Marquette sees a little regression, but I would not be shocked to be 100% wrong on that one.
And here's the. Run to the window. Again, we talk about Wisconsin, Virginia, Northwestern, 115, 118s. Ken Palm's got this one landed on 135. So again, you see an under over of a Wisconsin game that high, you run to the window, place the over, and then you just move on.
Okay. No, 100%. I'm glad you brought that up. I wasn't even thinking about that right now without seeing it. So that is it for Saturday. Well, actually, there's Ohio State's St. Francis, PA. I don't have much thoughts on that one, unless you think St. Francis, PA is coming out of the woodwork and upsetting them there. But Kentucky and Michigan in London, noon my time, 1 your time on Sunday during the football games here. Yeah, I don't know what to make of this one. Michigan down to 50 in the KenPom rankings. Kentucky obviously 5th. On a neutral floor, I'm not sure what they'd give you here. Kentucky's bounced back a little bit. They've got the losses to Michigan State, Gonzaga. They've beaten up everybody else. Michigan coming off of a close loss against Virginia. They've been, again, a little up and down. They smoked Pitt in I can't remember what tournament they were in, but smoked Pitt, came back the next day and got the doors beat off of them by Arizona State, and then bounced back a couple times before that Virginia game. I'm going to guess, let's see, Kentucky by 6.5.
I thought you were going to come with 5.5. Vegas making a pretty big statement here. 76-67. KenPom's got him by 9.
Okay. No, I think that's and it's going to be a good test. It's either, of how good Michigan is or how much they play up to their opponents or down to their opponents. So I'm not. It's a team that I just it's hard to find value in betting them because you just don't know what team you're going to get. So and especially overseas in London, I really don't know what you're going to see from both of these teams. So. If you ever feel any confidence, I mean, obviously there's not many overseas game, but is that just a stay away in general for you if when a college basketball game's in London or wherever else like that?
Yeah, again, two big marquee teams. They're going to get a lot of play and a lot of action, but again, Kentucky's 2 losses to Michigan State in double overtime. They never should have lost that game, first of all.
Yeah.
And then it was the perfect storm. The Zags were coming off the blowout loss to, was it Texas?
Yeah, Texas, yep.
Yeah, and then so that was a Sunday game where then they just returned the favor and beat them by 16. Kentucky bounces back with North Florida and a Bellarmine team that was actually pretty damn pesky, and it was real second half, and then they blew away at 19 there. I wanted to just pull this up here. Michigan. A Michigan team, Purdue, Fort Wayne, Eastern Michigan, Pitt. They lose to Arizona State, who looks like Mr. Hurley's got a pretty decent team, but they lost to him by 25 there. They bounced back with an OT win against Ohio and then at Jackson State. And then, again, they lose to 2 points to Virginia, which this Virginia team will be knocking on the door. Sweet 16, Elite 8. They probably, in my eyes, gun to my head right now, I think once the dust settles, I think they're the team to beat in the ACC. I know people will think North Carolina and Duke, but I think Virginia right now is the team to beat. So you like Michigan in a bounce back spot, but it's in London. It could be one of these, field trips. We'll take the beating and we'll just get ready for Minnesota on Thursday.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a stay away. I'll have it on maybe a third or fourth TV when I'm watching these NFL games on Sunday. But I probably won't be betting on that one. 3 other games on Sunday though, 2 in-conference games and then a nice rivalry game, Nebraska and Creighton. We just saw Creighton against last night against Texas, 5-point loss. Tough game there against Texas, obviously at Texas. Now you come back home to Creighton for a game against Nebraska here. Nebraska gets a nice win, couple of wins against ACC teams, Florida State and Boston College. Creighton has won these last 3 matchups between these teams pretty handily for the most part here. And obviously you've got 97 ranked Nebraska per KenPom, 14th ranked Creighton there. Is this are we going to see double-digit spread for this one, or is it going to be just shy of double digits here?
No, KenPom's got it 75-62. So with that said, again, a perfect letdown spot for Creighton after. I don't mean letdown in this. They lost to Texas, but that was a battle. And again, I just want to bring this up. I know this is the Big Ten show, but I just have to bring this up to everyone watching and listening. The 2 marquee games last night was Texas and Creighton, and was UConn and Oklahoma State. Okay. So Texas opened up at 6.5, closed at 7. The game lands on 5. UConn opens up at 8.5, closes at 9, lands on 10. So I know everyone has an opinion. I know everyone wants a piece of the action, especially when it's on TV. Guys, they're too sharp. You're waiting for the last second. Are they going to foul? Are they not going to foul? Why are they fouling? Miss free throw, 3-pointer from half court. You don't need to sweat that. Just watch the game, enjoy it, and move on.
Yep, 100%. And yeah, that Oklahoma. I'm glad I didn't have action on it finally. Yeah, the Oklahoma State just barely missed the backdoor cover there on rolling off the rim there. So I'm sure a lot of people were either jumping for joy or down in the dumps on that one. But I don't know. So you think is Nebraska live in that game, or do you think it's just maybe going to be a closer game than people are giving them credit for?
Well, Creighton got to 8. UConn was 7th. No. Creighton 7, UConn 8. Creighton a loss against Texas at Texas. They're not going to move that much, obviously, and it's early in the year. Who the hell cares?
Yeah.
They could be in statement mode. And a Nebraska team, as you said, a nice bounce back, 17-point win against Florida State and a 21-point win against Boston College. I would just buckle up, Nebraska. You could be in for a world of hurt. That number's 13. Maybe by tip-off, it's probably 15. People say Creighton's going to make sure they lay the lumber. So the more I look into it, I'm staying far, far away, but I wouldn't be shocked to see a 20-point win by Creighton.
No, I wouldn't be either. I typically stay away. I've had enough hurt from Fred Hoiberg in my life, so I typically try to stay away from Fred Hoiberg these days since not your Magic at Iowa State where you would have those teams playing above their skis. That's not happening here at Nebraska. So 2 more games. One, you've got a Purdue team, number 5, obviously undefeated, against Minnesota. 149 per KenPom, 7 Purdue. Purdue just took down Florida State by 10. Are we going to see a spread in that same range, 15, 16 points in this one, or are they going to give a little respect to Minnesota in the divisional game here, or a conference game here?
Looking at resumes, and we talked about Michigan State, who they've played. Just take a look at what this Purdue team has played. Milwaukee, Austin Peay. Okay, it is what it is. A real good Marquette team. They beat by 5. They beat West Virginia by 12. They beat the Zags by 18. They beat Duke by 19. And, again, that 16-point spread against Florida State we knew was too high. They just played grab ass, and they won by 10. KenPom has this game 72-54. Thanks for playing.
Goodness gracious. It would not surprise me at all to see that type of score. I was wondering if because, again, I think, maybe Florida State's better than Minnesota, but, sometimes people see a 1-7 as compared to a 4-3, and they think it's, maybe that'll get people running to Minnesota's train on Sunday as far as that is concerned. But, Minnesota is definitely the bottom feeder of the Big Ten. You have a 16-point loss to DePaul on your hands, 9-point loss to UNLV on your hands, 10 to Virginia Tech. So it's going to be a struggle spot here for Minnesota. I expect they'll probably have a little surge in January, February, or early March where they're knocking off a couple teams or something like that. But aside from that, I'm not expecting too much out of this team. So last one of Sunday, Northwestern at Michigan State. We've talked about both these teams. Michigan State 5-3 now, still ranking. If they lose this one, they'll drop out of the rankings. But if they win this one, maybe they'll be able to hang on there. Northwestern 5-2, 1-point loss to Auburn, and then they get the doors beat off them by Pitt in the ACC Big Ten Challenge there. Michigan State, obviously, the win against Gonzaga, or the close loss against Gonzaga, the win against Kentucky. Beat Nova, tough game against Alabama. Their schedule's been a gauntlet, and this one isn't really a breather spot for them at all, even though it's at home here. You've got 74th ranked Northwestern per KenPom, 33 Michigan State here. Am I fair to assume it's at Michigan here? Is this one over a 5-point spread, 5.5, 6?
Good for you. KenPom's got it 65-57, so they got 8.
Okay.
And again, Gonzaga, they lose by 1. Alabama, they lose by 11, and Notre Dame, I thought it was the perfect storm for Notre Dame. We both did. They get run out of the gym. 18, that was box to wire. I think the public will be all in on Michigan State here for that bounce back. Vegas here, Ken Palm with an 8. 65-57 low scoring game, which I do expect. I think they're pretty spot on with this number.
Yeah, and this is another one we talked about, throwing Northwestern in that category of teams with the totals. So, the total could be, indicative of what's going on tomorrow or on Sunday whenever we see it.
So right there, that's perfect. It's 122.
Yeah.
So
122.
That's a Northwestern number.
It is. It is, and so if I'm seeing if I'm seeing a number posted under 122 as far as the game total, I'm interested in Northwestern and the under. Higher than that, and you're in the 125s or so. Maybe this one flies over. Who knows? But I think and a lot of people still aren't giving Northwestern credit. They don't know. They obviously see a 30-point loss to Pitt in their most recent spot. They're going to think Northwestern's the bottom feeder of the Big Ten, which they might be in the bottom third of it this year when it all shakes out. But they're a dark horse this year for sure, and they're a team that can slow you down and play some good defense. And obviously we've talked about Michigan State. It's finally starting to show a little bit. Some of these early season struggles that they have, getting themselves back on track and ready to roll January and February and into March. Maybe this is a bounce back spot for them, but I'll certainly give Northwestern a puncher's chance on Sunday in this one.
I agree.
That one's at 6 p.m. my time, 7 p.m. your time. So the late cap for the Big Ten on Sunday. But that is it, my friend. That is it for the weekend, and then we'll have some Big Ten conference games if you and I are talking this next week. Non-conference as well. Illinois, Texas. Illinois going to Texas on Tuesday. That one's at MSG. That one's at MSG. So neutral floor. So they get a breather. Neutral floor. Still a huge game though. Iowa and Duke. Is that also? Yeah, MSG as well. Iowa and Duke. So that's an interesting one as well. Maryland, Wisconsin on Tuesday. So you're going to get some good games this week in the whether it's Big Ten conference game or non-conference games. You've got some big games in the Big Ten. Iowa State, Iowa. Iowa State. I haven't had a chance to watch too much, but they're obviously playing pretty well. So going to be a good next week starting today. Next week for Big Ten basketball. So I cannot wait, my friend. I'm glad we got to break down these weekend games though.
Just a quick change of pace here. Akron, Buffalo. I've been waiting all morning, and the starting quarterback for Akron is out. Jeff Undercuffler is going to start. The line is now just moved to 12. I'm looking at some 12.5. So I was flocking to see what happens. It was a 13.5 with a 57. It got bet down all the way to 11.5, speculating the Akron QB would go. And in comes now the line change to 12s and 12.5s all across. So get a little Akron Buffalo, a little MAC action to start the weekend on Friday here.
Did that game get canceled or something? Because the MAC championship is tomorrow. Did that game get postponed or rescheduled or something like that? It must. Maybe
this is probably the snowstorm.
Yes. Yep. That makes sense.
So they're coming in now to play it. So
and Buffalo needs it to get a bowl game. So and then obviously tomorrow at about noontime is the MAC championship. So that one will be interesting. That one should be a good one. I wish that one seems like it should be a Friday night game. No, they don't need to bury that one on Saturday. Give us that on Thursday or Friday night for some action championship.
No, I 100% agree that, we do have the Utah game at 8, but you could have sprinkled it in, at around 6 o'clock or something as the appetizer.
Yeah. Or even last night, up against the old NFL game, which hats off to you, my friend. You were spot on. I was a little more wishy-washy than you were, but you were definitely pumping the brakes on the old Patriots train there. So, that was an ugly showing offensively for sure from the Patriots there. Go ahead.
I just sat there and I was replaying the show in my head, and I was so dumbfounded. Listen, when I'm dumbfounded, one or two things happen. I'm either spot on or I got hit by the Mack truck. And I'm just like, guys, what are you guys selling me? And when Benson went to 3 minus 20, I wanted to pick up the phone and say, Jeff, what the hell's going on? Because when they all go down accordingly, that's the old banana in the tailpipe. And I'm really starting to wonder here. I know Matt Patricia is not an offensive coordinator. But but I know what my eyes see. And when Zappy came in a couple times, they're throwing these deep passes, they're stretching the field. Mac Jones is 3rd and 9, and they're doing 7-yard outs to the sidelines. Even if they catch it, they weren't going to be first downs. Now the tape went viral. He goes, effing throw the ball, and then the effing running game sucks. And the frustration, you could feel it. And now the rumblings are coming very simply that potentially Tom Brady's coming back for what's swan song next year. And here we go. Let's all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. Enough!
Yeah. Would the Patriots even even if Tom wanted to do that, would the Patriots do that? Wouldn't they want to move on and try and find their next franchise quarterback and figure out whether it's one of these two guys or not?
Well. Bill wants to pass Schuler, and he's not going to do it next year or probably the year after. That's number one. Number two, it's been the chicken and the egg. Who needed who more? They both needed each other. But Tom flew the coop and won the Super Bowl, and Bill has done nothing since Tom has left. If Tom came back and they miraculously pulled the gang back together and they won a Super Bowl, that's just more proof that it's Tom, not Bill.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. Bill would be in Bob's office and says, if you bring Tom back, I'm out. Yeah. I am not dealing with this kid at all. I've had enough, because there was a separation the last couple of years that he was here. Jimmy G was Bill's guy, and he got forced to trade him. So if you want to force Bill out, you can just bring Tom back, and then we'll find a coach. I think the head coach is at Alabama, and his name is Bill O'Brien. I think that would be the move. They'd bring him in. Vrabel is not leaving Tennessee, but if Vrabel wanted to leave Tennessee for that, God bless him, because that would be my head coach.
Yeah. No, I think he's fantastic as well. So, I don't know. Any other thoughts to drop down, or are we waiting until this afternoon, my friend?
No, we're going to wait till this afternoon. We've had a lot of viewers, a lot of people watching. We're going to, at 2:30, I'm going to go have Andrew McGinnis from Wager Talk on. We're going to talk some hockey. We're going to talk maybe a little NFL, and then around 3:30, 3:45 my time, I'm going to bring you in. We're going to start the closing bell. And around 4:15, Mr. Lucky will grace us with his presence, talk some NFL, some circa, and then if we have to, we'll wrap up the bell then.
That sounds good to me. I can't imagine we'll have enough to talk about this afternoon with sports going on. So, I'll be ready to rock, my friend. And obviously, there's some college football games on tonight, and some Gonzaga Baylor college basketball, and plenty of other college basketball games. So I will be ready to rock, my friend.
The Big Ten will be moving forward. What we'll do as we progress here on Fridays is we'll talk the baskets. And then when the bowl games come out, we'll start breaking down some of the bowl games with the Penn States and whoever else, the Purdue's, the Illinois, they'll all be in bowl games. So that'll be fun. So from myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from the one and only Riley Magnuson at Riley_Magnuson, the one, we wish everyone a blessed day. Myself and Riley will be back around 3:30, 3:45 my time. In between, catch myself and Andrew McGinnis at 2:30 as we talk some pucks, props, and all that other stuff. Everyone have a good day. Have some nice lunch, and we'll see you soon.